Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, find a way to lose. Hey, you might as well subscribe. It costs you nothing. You clicked on the video link, right? Let's jump into it. The secret society has decided to make Fury versus Ngannou, not AJ versus Wilder. Has anyone stopped to ask themselves why? That's the real question. Do y'all know what's going on here? Now, the whole thing about this guy, Daniel Kinahan, right? We need to understand something, right? This stuff that's going on in boxing, we just see what's going on the surface. But when you sit here and just try to digest the developments, right? It drives for an interesting conversation. So a couple interesting facts, right? Tyson Fury, the Fury family, just happen to know the Kinahan family, right? I don't know if they know everybody. I don't know if they know one person, but I know that they're familiar with the Kinahan family. I know that their family roots go back to Ireland. I know that supposedly somebody grew up as a neighbor. Some Fury family grew up as neighbors with some Kinahan family. Fast forward, you take a look at Tyson Fury over there with Bob Arum being advised by Kinahan. Kinahan going into hiding. Tyson Fury is where he is right now. I personally think Tyson Fury got to this point because of the muscle machine behind him that has a lot to do with corruption. Now, for those who are sitting there cussing at the computer screen right now, the reason I say that is because when Tyson Fury decided to return to the sport of boxing after he had his meltdown and his mental health issues after fighting Vladimir Klitschko, he hooked up with Kinahan, where Kinahan told him, "Trust in me, believe in me, I will lead you to unimaginable wealth and back to the top of the heavyweight division." Well, let's fast forward to where we are today. Tyson Fury has been led to unimaginable wealth. He's at the top of the heavyweight division. Okay? Very simple. You look at every move Tyson Fury's made, makes you wonder how in the hell he's been able to do the things he's been able to do and get away with it. Now, we're just having a conversation. Okay? Now, when you take a look at, I'm not going to rehash the Fury and Wilder fights, all right? There's a dark cloud hanging over those three fights. And there will always be. If you want to know what I think about those fights, you go look up the video I did on Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, where I talk about what really happened and the rumors about cheating, about corruption, all of that. It's a pretty interesting video. I think you'll enjoy it. But when you take a look at Tyson Fury and the fact that he last fought last year in December against Derek Chisora, and you see him now being able to fight Ngannou. There's a lot of people out here who are saying, how in the hell is Tyson Fury able to fight Ngannou? Well, first, WBC, I have my opinion about WBC, but I think they're in cahoots and right there in the bed with just about anybody and any and everyone who can put some money in their pocket. So nothing the WBC does surprises me, okay? But when you look at the fact that Fury and Ngannou is about to happen and how much money these guys are about to make, one, I'm happy for them, but two, I'm like, well, how? Why? Francis Ngannou, out of everyone Tyson Fury could fight, why are they putting up $10 million or whatever for Francis Ngannou? 50, 60 million for Tyson Fury. Why would the Saudis get behind that fight and not get behind AJ and Wilder? Y'all asked that question yet? Why are the Saudis getting behind Ngannou and Fury and not behind Wilder and AJ? In case you didn't know, the Wilder AJ fight sounds like it's done, like it's not happening anymore. Like the Saudis don't have the money or don't want to put the money up for Wilder and AJ. So now we got to ask the question, what happened? What went wrong? Because they got the money for Fury and Ngannou. Now, if you ask me, what's the bigger fight? Fury and Ngannou or AJ and Wilder? I think they're pretty damn close. But I would tend to think the bigger fight would probably be Wilder and AJ. I'm just being real. And that's me not trying to look at it as a boxing fan. That's me trying to look at it as what could possibly drive the most money. But I know Ngannou from the MMA world. I know it's a lot. The MMA fans are diehard fans. I understand Tyson Fury and what he's done in the sport of boxing. The point he's at, bringing the two together in a crossover bout. Maybe there's a little bit more interest there. So, I don't know. Maybe Fury and Ngannou may be a bigger fight than AJ and Wilder. But at the end of the day, why did that fall apart, AJ and Wilder? Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. One, I already told you. I personally think that, I know that at a point in time where Tyson Fury had a relationship with Kinahan. Till this day, he speaks very highly of Kinahan. And I think there's a reason for that. He will never come out and say anything bad about Daniel Kinahan. Never. I personally think Tyson Fury isn't trying to bite the hand that feeds him. Now, that's just my opinion, because I would want to distance myself from somebody who's involved with crime, corruption, and murder, and drug trafficking, and this huge supply distribution channel that has drugs going from all over the world, in particular in through Africa as well. Okay? But he hasn't done that. So now you look at Francis Ngannou. You say, okay, well, why are you targeting Francis Ngannou? I'm gonna tell you why I think we should be having an open discussion about Francis Ngannou. First, I want to say this, right? When it comes to Daniel Kinahan and the Kinahan cartel, right? What I'm getting ready to tell you is something that's a fact. Now, West and North Africa are the continent's more famous cocaine corridors. Now, check this out. Now, given their much higher enforcement profile, check this out. It's hard to compare what's going on in other parts of Africa as far as corruption and the drug trade to what's going on in West and North Africa. Now, if you didn't know, right, that drugs are being smuggled, not just directly into Europe, but a lot of the shipments are reaching coastal Africa countries. Now, we talked about these African countries. We're talking about not only in South Africa, but West and North Africa. Now we talk about Cameroon is where Francis Ngannou's from. Francis Ngannou is from West Africa. And you look at Francis Ngannou, he's over there in the UFC, was making little to no money. Francis Ngannou was able to open up an MMA gym, the first MMA gym in Cameroon, out there in West Africa. Now, all I'm saying is, how is he able, right, to be, in my opinion, struggling to really make a living in the UFC with his, what he would consider mediocre paydays, then to end up back out there in West Africa, Cameroon, and to somehow find a way to pour money into the area where he grew up, and to now look to start opening more gyms and developing fighters. Now, I don't know much about Cameroon. I don't know when you do the US dollar conversion to whatever currency they use there. Maybe it only takes like $5,000 to open up a gym, get land. I don't know. But what I will tell you is, for Francis Ngannou, there are a lot of people very concerned about Francis Ngannou and him fighting Tyson Fury. And people are trying to understand how in the world, one, Francis Ngannou get to fight with Tyson Fury over AJ and Wilder a third time. And two, right, why is Francis even taking the fight? Well, especially with him being a guy who fled Cameroon, and with his, you got to hear his story, man. and just to know the trials and tribulations and, barely escaping death in an attempt to get to France. Now, some people feel that when it comes to Francis Ngannou, he's been spending a lot of time over there in Saudi Arabia, and that somehow Francis Ngannou, his silence has been purchased, meaning that he's been given some kind of money from some source, right, to get him to be quiet about certain things and to just go along with the process to make sure everything they have planned between Fury and Ngannou goes forward without a hitch. Now, when you talk about Francis Ngannou, people look. He left the UFC. Just rolled the dice and bet on himself, right? That's what they say. I tend to believe it. But I'm also kind of person who likes to have a conversation. Francis Ngannou walks away from something into the unknown. Some could say, hey, look, man, just look what he did when he left his homeland to try to find his way to France, ended up in Spain and France and, escaping death. So this man's not going to have an issue with walking away from an unhappy situation because he knows his value. I'm like, yeah, cool. But he leaves that situation, sits back, vegging for a year, and all of a sudden, boom, lands a couple of huge deals, and then gets to fight Tyson Fury. That one deal, I think it was the PFL he signed with. He signed some big-time deal with somebody, and he got this bout with Tyson Fury. How does that happen? Well, I can tell you how it happens. Tyson Fury and Ngannou are on the same sheet of music. And I don't know this for a fact, but I truly believe that Tyson Fury and Ngannou are associated with some of the same people who have roots out there in Saudi Arabia and can make certain things happen when it comes to fights, when it comes to money. I truly believe that. Now, this is what I find the most interesting about all of this. Okay? Because if you watch, Francis Ngannou doesn't say anything. Pay attention. Tyson Fury is the loud one, making noise, being Tyson Fury. But Francis Ngannou doesn't say anything. Now we know Francis Ngannou is very proud of where he's from, very proud of his people, very proud of what he's been able to accomplish, what he calls the American dream. But this is the issue that people have, a lot of migrants and Africans have with Francis Ngannou, in case you didn't know, right? Now, we know he's a migrant, became a champion fighter, okay? We know that. But for him to partner with Saudi Arabia, this is the issue. Saudi Arabia has been accused of mass murdering African migrants, okay? Now, Francis Ngannou saw people killed in ways that is beyond your comprehension, my comprehension, and was even beyond his comprehension. There was at one point in time where he saw 30 people just killed in one spot. And he had to go hide underneath some large stone to sleep. And he said when he was doing that, he was afraid. And he just knew people were around him and they were trying to basically sleep and not get killed as well. And in addition to that, what he realized at a certain point in time that there were some people who were trying to avoid being killed, but the majority of the bodies around him that he thought were people sleeping were all dead bodies. And he said even at the end, as he got through the night, when he woke up, he realized he was all alone. Now, when you hear him tell that story about seeing his fellow countrymen getting killed like that, right? It wasn't him in Saudi Arabia. It was just something that he saw in his journey trying to get to Spain and France. Then you go on and hear about what's going on over there in Saudi Arabia, where there was like a group of 60 who were being shot up by the Saudi border guards because they were asylum seekers who were trying to get across the border from Yemen to Saudi Arabia. And half of the group ended up getting killed. Now, Saudi has really had a lot of attention on them about human rights violations, okay? And they talk a lot recently here about the Saudi border guards and just killing migrants, Ethiopians and other nationalities, but in particular the Ethiopians, who are just asylum seekers just trying to get over in Saudi Arabia between March 2022 and June this year. And it said that those guards, they weren't just shooting the migrants, they were using explosive weapons to kill men, women, and children, just decimating them. And it's really, 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 really unfortunate. People are going on to say it's beyond imagination, and it's just horrible to see the way that the Africans are being treated. Now, because the kingdom has this huge event coming up with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, it's supposed to take place 28 October in Saudi, right there in Riyadh. I've been there. I was actually deployed to Riyadh. There are a lot of people watching this bout, and they just feel that there's a certain significance to it because of Francis Ngannou and himself being an African migrant and knowing what it's like to just want to be an asylum seeker and look to better your life, and to have people try to kill you. And for him to survive and have so many people around him die, and him to wake up around a bunch of dead bodies, he should precisely understand and have a type of respect and appreciation for what those people were trying to do, and have and definitely have a certain bitterness towards that Saudi regime that was shooting up and blowing up those people and kids with explosive weapons. And they can't understand why a guy like him, who knows what it's like, who's actually walked in the shoes of a lot of those people, for him to sit there now and go and want to fight in Saudi Arabia, knowing that there's been so many human rights violations against Africans. And they say that's a tough pill to swallow, and that's why they feel like the money is what it is, and that's why Francis Ngannou isn't saying anything, because if he does, he puts himself in a bad spot. You know, so many people come from humble beginnings, just like Francis Ngannou. But I'm going to tell you all this right now. We've got to understand Wilder and AJ, Eddie Hearn, what went wrong. You're going to tell me, right, that Ngannou, with everything going on with Africans being killed, everything going on with the Skills Challenge promotion all of a sudden, having a change in leadership, why is that? Francis Ngannou being from West Africa, that's where Daniel Kinahan and the Irish cartel has a lot of their business. I'm not saying that Francis Ngannou has anything to do with any cartel or anything like that. I'm just saying it just seems to be a lot of coincidences here with you got Ngannou just leaving the UFC. He's doing some work out there in Cameroon in West Africa. Then all of a sudden he lands a deal with this fighting organization, a huge $1 million deal. And then he also gets this deal to fight Tyson Fury in a huge $1 million deal. But then AJ and Wilder sit on the sidelines and they can't get any action. Not even Eddie Hearn can get AJ into a fight with Wilder, can get him the big money fight. We know Al Heyman and PBC ain't doing much at all when it comes to Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder was just in Saudi. Anthony Joshua was always in Saudi. Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. You know what I'm saying? What happened? But Tyson Fury, the guy who goes over there asking for $500 million for a fight, the guy who won't fight Usyk, the guy who's out there just cussing and raising hell and asking Francis Ngannou how big is his quarry, whatever the hell that means. But he gets to fight in Saudi Arabia. Who's more respectful? Deontay Wilder, during interviews, how he talks, how he conducts himself, Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou, or Tyson Fury? Oh, I say this, who has the most filthy mouth out of those four? Tyson Fury. But yet and still, they won't do business with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury goes against everything. I lived in Saudi Arabia. The way he conducts himself goes against everything. And I know he just could be putting on a show. It's a character. I get it. But it goes against everything. The people who I was around in Saudi Arabia, it goes against all their beliefs. The way he conducts himself and carries on. It goes against everything they believe in. But yet and still, Tyson Fury's out here, keeps moving up the ladder, getting on his way to unimaginable wealth. Not AJ, not Wilder, but Tyson Fury. Y'all need to pay attention, man. Pay attention. I just think there's a little bit more going on. I know the journey is difficult for Francis Ngannou. I understand his struggles. He's gone public. He talked about everything. But it just makes me wonder how in the hell a guy like him, who understands the plight of refugees like himself, who wants to do better, who had no support over in the UFC, they just treated him like trash. Then all of a sudden, he somehow bubbles all the way up as far as being a priority over AJ and Wilder, over Usyk, over an undisputed distinction. And now he's the man for Tyson Fury, but they're fighting in Saudi Arabia. What is going on? When you start connecting the pieces here, it makes you wonder. You know what I'm saying? Who is doing what with who? What is going on behind the scenes? The secret society, what is the next play? It doesn't make sense. Why would they turn their back on AJ and Wilder? Fast Eddie, what is it that he did wrong? Did he misstep? Did he talk too much? You know what I'm saying? There's got to be a reason for what's going on out there. Something doesn't add up and it stinks. I'm telling you, something stinks. There needs to be more investigations about what's going on, the sport of boxing out there in Saudi, and not even just about the rights groups, just about what's going on in Saudi, to try to understand how these fights are being made and who's really behind the scenes. It makes you wonder. And also, for Francis Ngannou, I get it. Francis Ngannou was just trying to make his money. But how is it he was able to come out, I would say almost out of obscurity? John Jones was still, to me, a bigger name than Francis Ngannou. But Francis Ngannou, man, is known for knocking people out. But for the most part, I don't think Ngannou was a bigger draw, was the biggest draw in the UFC. He was the big man as a heavyweight champion, but I think John Jones was a bigger draw. I think a lot of those other fighters were much bigger draw than Francis Ngannou. Then boom, he comes over and look at the deal he's able to land. And for some reason, I just don't think Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury is going to be as big of a fight as Conor McGregor and Mayweather. And I just don't think it's going to be that big of a fight. But the bottom line is, there's some money on the table for Tyson Fury to fight him. But look at how much money Tyson Fury gets. Y'all not paying attention. Why is it Tyson Fury gets to get 60, 70 million? If he wants to fight Usyk, why is it Tyson Fury can take 75, 80% of the fight purse and Usyk take 20, 25%? How is it Tyson Fury can continue to build unimaginable wealth? He go fight John Jones, gonna be something else like that, because they know them guys in the UFC ain't making real money. So Tyson Fury comes and snatches up another 60, 70 million, and John Jones may get 10 or 20. But how is it Tyson Fury always ends up, he's not even the A side, he's the A++ side. That's all I'm asking. How? How is he able to do that? Maybe he just happens to be a lucky one, man. Maybe. But I am very interested in finding out what the hell is going on. You know? It's very interesting. Remember, Ngannou was stripped. He didn't lose a fight. They stripped him of his heavyweight title. All because of the contract dispute with the UFC. He bounced as a free agent. He was criticized. They said all kind of horrible stuff about him. And like I mentioned, he signed that lucrative deal with PFL. And now check this out if you didn't know. He's also serving as a chairman and equity owner of the organization's Africa division. So there's more work in combat sports for the Africa division. And Ngannou is there leading the way. And he's able to box as well. How many times have you seen where someone who's either a boxer or someone who's either in the mixed martial arts world where they can do both? Now, it's partnership, but this partnership came to be because of Saudi Arabia. I'm just curious. That's all I'm saying, man. End up meeting with Turki al-Sheikh, the chairman of the General Authority for Entertainment and close confidant of Saudi Crown Prince and de facto ruler Mohammed bin Salman. Let me tell you something. Somehow they reached that agreement to host Fury and Ngannou. I'm telling you, they can say they're trying to boost tourism, the kingdom's capital. I don't really know how they're gonna do that, but Francis Ngannou has got himself connected with Saudi Arabia, man. And there's a lot of influential people in Saudi, and especially with the position that these people hold. And I'm telling you, man, it didn't take long, but they were able to make an agreement to host Fury and Ngannou in collaboration with Riyadh Season. And that's an entertainment fest designed to enhance tourism in the kingdom's capital city. That being said, man, y'all keep cool. Try to understand what's going on here. Because I'm telling you right now, something ain't right. I don't care what anybody says. No AJ Wilder. Not even talks of moving it back to a later date. It's scrapped. Maybe another country will pick it up. Another country. That means Saudi Arabia has moved away from them. But I'm going to tell you the issue is Wilder doesn't have a deal with Saudi. He doesn't have a deal with Skilled Challenge Promotion. He doesn't have a deal with anyone in Saudi Arabia. Joshua doesn't have an exclusive deal with anyone in Saudi Arabia. And that's what it is. I think they're playing hardball. They're like, nah, you guys come over here, then we can make the fight. We're not just going to give you our money. Tyson Fury had, I don't care what no one says. I believe it. It's just an opinion. I'm just having a conversation. I think Tyson Fury has some kind of work relationship or some kind of agreement with the guys over in Saudi Arabia, because it doesn't make sense that he gets to fight over AJ. And in Ghana, we already know that. You know, he has something going on. And we know Tyson Fury is doing what he wants to make his money. But when you look at it, you know, there's no proof, but it just makes you wonder, you know, how is Tyson Fury able to do this stuff? How? That's all I'm saying. But anyway, just a conversation. Very interesting to me. And I think there needs to be more conversation about it because I think it's healthy. But one thing I will say is I think Tyson Fury will go wherever money is. It's just unfortunate for Tyson Fury that, you know, his name was attached to this guy, Kinahan, and all the different stories that come out on the internet, whether they're true or not. It just, to me, it just kind of puts him in a position where people are going to sit here and watch things going on with anything doing with him or just fighters, period, in Saudi Arabia, and wonder what's going on behind the scenes, and why is this individual or these individuals, why are they the special ones? Why is there an exception made for them? What about everyone else who wants to come over there and make that kind of money? Why aren't these other fighters, these other combatants, able to come over there and make that kind of money when they definitely are worth every penny? Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Secret Society is out here making things happen. Fury versus Ngannou, but not AJ and Wilder. And I still don't know why. In the breeze.